Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the Power Shift seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which at the start of the match, every card in our deck gets its power set to its provision cost. That means low power cards with high provisions are suddenly substantially stronger than usual. Today we are revisiting one of the strongest decks we've ever played for this event, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Skellige Blaze of Glory deck that focuses on playing all the highest value cards in this event and then replaying them using Lippy. Now this deck was so powerful last time we played it that I farmed about 75 wins with it, but it has since been nerfed. However, it is still so strong that it might even be the strongest deck in this event even after all those nerfs. So to talk a little more about the details, first of all, there's Renfri. Last time, she did not have Doomed built in, so that does mean that we can only play Renfri once, so she is not a card that we can recycle with Lippy. But, of course, try to play her relatively early, and that means that you can replace your leader ability, hopefully with something pretty good, and if you do get it early, then you can look for the Blessing of Patience, so you get it on cooldown and can use it multiple times in the match. So that's the idea behind Renfri. But outside of that, it's mostly cards like the various Geralts for, in this event, big point slams, because he's not a 3, he's an 11 in the case of Geralt Professional, and in the case of base Geralts, more removal and more high base power, and similar story with Igni. So that's the type of thing we're trying to do in round 1, is play as many of those Geralts as we can to get huge value from that, and pretty much guarantee that we're going to win round 1, and potentially even finish with Triss Meteor Shower, which, because we have so many cards with high base power, is incredibly powerful, either for boosting or potentially for damaging our opponent, but because we have so much removal, probably going to see this as a boosting card more so than a damaging card. Try to use Morkvarg early as your leader ability target, so that means you will move him from your deck into your graveyard, and in doing so, that will of course summon him out because that's his ability, so he will be 7-point damage and then get summoned onto the board as a 7-point unit, and he'll have Doomed, which means he won't get put back into your graveyard, and therefore don't need to worry about recycling what is mostly just a one-time use card for your leader ability, but make sure you do keep him in your deck, otherwise that's going to be pretty hard to get as much value from your leader ability as this. He is definitely your preferred target for that. Then we have other cards like Roach, as well as Best Boy, who will also get summoned out from our deck in round 1, and that means they'll come back out and give us even more value from Lippy. Speaking of Lippy, just to confirm here, basically play all of your big stuff in round 1, and that means at the end of the round, it'll go into your graveyard. Then hopefully, because, especially since we're using such powerful cards in round 1, probably means our opponent is going to pass a little bit early in round 1, and that means should still be able to have 1 or 2 throwaway cards in round 2, and just make sure that one of those cards you use in round 2 is Lippy. And then, as I said, that means you're probably going to get the Roach and Best Boy in round 2. Might even mean you can push a little bit in round 2, but it won't be until round 3 that you actually draw into all the stuff that you played in round 1, like Triss, the Geralts, and so on and so forth. Outside of that stuff, it's mostly cards that you would ideally not play at all in round 1, because not only do you want to play all your big stuff in round 1 so that you're recycling it with Lippy, anything that is not big is a card that is still going to get recycled from Lippy, and means you're probably going to see it again in round 3, so, you know, you'd rather not have a bunch of Heymaey Herbalists in round 3, or Brokvar Warriors, which are still decent cards in some cases, but they just can't compare to the value that you're getting from the Geralt. So use these, but only if you absolutely have to in round 1. Otherwise, you're going to probably be forced into playing them again in round 3. And at that point, you're probably going to have a few of them in your hand. So at that stage, it's not as if you're going to be forced into playing them another time because you've already done your Lippy recycling. Could still start either round 1 or round 3 with the Craite Longship, which does give you some long-term value with the damage that it provides. It is a tiny bit of a risk that that extra bit of damage brings things out of Geralt's removal range, so just bear that in mind. There's potentially some chance of that happening to you, but that's pretty slight that is the case. Other than that, Drummond Berserker is actually going to get weaker in this event because it's going to get dropped down to a 4, but the reason why he's in this deck is because if you are forced into playing a bronze unit in round 1, then you play him, he will immediately at the end of your turn transform into this Bear Abomination that has Doomed. So that means it will not go into your graveyard, so this is a way of avoiding having to replay one of your weaker cards in round 3. So not great in terms of points, but a way of, if you have built up a huge lead with all your Geralts in round 1, then maybe you can afford to do something like that in round 1 as well. Dorregary, in case you do find yourself in need of lock, you have a little bit of that here. And then, well, you could use Whale Harpooner for another source of damage if your opponent is stacking a bunch of units in one row, or your opponent has something that's row locked. It's potentially something that could be decent value even for bronze. And if your opponent is doing something like we're doing with this deck and trying to recycle some cards from their graveyard, most likely with Skellige, Lippy, or maybe Crow Mother, then use Squirrel to banish one of your opponent's biggest cards, and that way they aren't going to get the chance to replay that. And the other thing is you'd like to keep your Seagulls in your deck basically up until you do your Lippy deck flip, because that means you're going to have 2 of them in your graveyard, so that once you get a kill in round 3, you're going to get 2 Seagulls coming out for free, and they're going to be 8 points collectively, assuming you can keep both of them there. So that's potentially a significant little boost for round 3. But that's all there is to it. Basically, all about playing your biggest cards in round 1 and then using Lippy to shuffle them back into your deck so that by the time you draw into your cards in round 3, you're replaying all those really valuable cards that you had in round 1. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here, and they'll go first. Alright, and several things we'd like to change here with our hand. Morkvarg, we really want to keep in deck so we can use our leader ability to get him out and deal a fair bit of damage when we do so. So let's dump you. And love picking up Lippy. The other thing is we prefer to keep Seagulls in our deck as well. That way when we do the Lippy deck flip, if we get a kill in a later round, we can get the Seagulls out from our graveyard for extra value as well. And Squirrel, not sure to what extent we'll be wanting to banish things from their graveyard. Redanian Knight, okay, so it may be a full-blown Knights Grace deck. That could certainly be the case with Shieldwall. Maybe they're looking to get some big Duelist Knights. That would be my guess, at least. So, I mean, we could just hit you and remove the armor, which is maybe not amazing. Then again, actually, tell you what, we get the perfect amount of damage from Morkvarg, so we'll probably just do that. In which case... Triss Butterflies we could use to get, what would we like? Probably Triss Meteor Shower or Renfri or Igni, really any or all of those things. So I think we do go this route. We'll put back this Seagull. As I said, that's a card we do like to keep hanging out in our deck. I think we go Triss Meteor Shower. Is really good. That gets you out. Let's go. Leader ability with Morkvarg. It's not amazing, but it is the perfect amount of damage to take you out. It gets Morkvarg on the board. Don't need to worry about that being an engine or even dealing damage to us after we remove the armor. Okay, and it's Queen Adalia. That's a 10. Into a Temerian Drummer. Just a little bit surprising, but, I mean, again, if their idea is they're trying to do Grace stuff, then that might be with the intention of boosting up some of those knights to get to that Grace number. But if we are going to use Lippy, which we are definitely going to try to do in round 2, then we want to play super aggressively here in round 1 so that we recycle all of our best cards going into round 3. So we should... Oh, I mean, we could technically wait a turn to get you up to 12, and then we could use Geralt Professional, which can be a little tricky to make that work sometimes. But it's kind of just thinking we go base Geralt here. It's kind of just thinking we go base Geralt here. Maybe I'm getting a little overly aggressive here, but that is generally what we're trying to do in round 1, is be aggressive. Okay, it's a Trident Infantry, which it is something, but it's not amazing. It'll deal some damage to us, but we could heal that off with the Herbalist. And technically, we can take one more hit and still heal that off too, but of course, what are the chances that Geralt is always the card that gets hit? Probably pretty low. So... probably use you here. I'm just wondering, again, the Geralt Professional can be a little tricky at times to get the timing on this right, because there aren't always cards that are multiples of 3. But let's go this route. We'll heal you up. And give you a little boost as well. Gets Best Boy out as well. Okay, it's another Temerian Drummer. So it's looking pretty clear as to what they are trying to do here. So if we wait one more turn, we could Geralt Professional on this Trident Infantry and remove a 12, which is quite solid value at that point. The potential issue is just that, again, we used a bronze here, and as I said, not only do we want to be aggressive with playing our golds because we want to replay those in round 3, any bronze that we play is a card that we are running the risk of drawing into that in round 3, so it's kind of a double whammy. We're not getting our strong cards, and we are likely to get our weaker cards for every bronze we play in round 1. So, for that reason, although the timing is not exactly ideal, I think I am still going to go Triss, and I think this is actually better. So normally, Triss would be your finisher, for sure. But But I think this round might not go that much longer because we are establishing a pretty huge lead here. And making sure that we can recycle that Triss in round 3 when she is so good, I think is very nice to make sure we can do that. Alright, and they'll pass. So yeah, Triss was enough to dissuade them from playing further. And I was going to say, if we were going to play another turn, we'd go Geralt Professional and remove this 12. But at this point, obviously, don't need to. And it means we'll absolutely have Geralt in round 3. Whereas if we use Lippy to deck flip, we only had a chance of getting it. Okay, and so this is our last chance to draw into big stuff here because we are planning to do our deck flip, and we have a couple of cards we can still play in round 2. One of those will definitely be Lippy, but we could, say, use Renfri, who we can't deck flip because she has Doomed anyway. So we'll probably look to do that. Let's dump... I don't think the Squirrel is going to be all that relevant against Northern Realms. Seagull, no, we want to keep that in deck. So, okay. Longship, I mean, we'll probably still keep that for the beginning of round 3. So, in that case, I think we just go... We go Renfri, we see what we get here, we try to get a cooldown, because that way we have a little more time to potentially get a few uses of that, and then obviously we'll finish with Lippy. So let's see what we get here. Damage enemy by 6, deal excess damage. I think that's unlikely to be all that effective, given how there are lots of high base power cards. Play a bronze unit from your hand, draw a unit of your choice. That sounds amazing, because then we can make sure we get some big stuff. And destroy an enemy unit with 8 power or less. That's dangerous in this event as well, because, I mean, in a long round 3, we can probably still make it work, but let's do this. And then if we get cooldown, yeah, let's definitely do that. So then we'll use this. We'll play, yes, you, just for the sake of getting you. Want to make sure that we get you, most importantly. Before we do our deck flip, we would have lost everything in here. So, you know, the only somewhat valuable card we'll be losing is that Longship, and since we already have one in our hand, that's really no big deal at all. Okay, Kirak City Guard is not enough for them to keep pace with us. So, I mean, we are probably just looking to Lippy here and leave it at that. But if we pass after that and they haven't done much to catch us, then they might be looking at being cards down in round 3, so we'll take that too. So we do Lippy, here is the deck flip, which means we immediately get Roach, and Best Boy was likely to come out at some point as well. So for that reason, gonna take a lot for them to catch us here. It is impossible, I would assume, for them to make that happen in one turn. And a Kirak City Guard is definitely not going to do it. So although there's perhaps something to be said for trying to push 2-0 here, I think we just settle with this huge lead, force them to go several cards down. We'll draw into a pretty sweet combination here. This is what I meant before when we played the Herbalist in round 1. This is very clearly the weakest card in our deck, so, I mean, we can probably find a way to circumvent that. If we get Triss Butterflies, we can get rid of it, or we can just mulligan it. So, I think we just pass here, and as they're trying to catch up to us, we'll also get this Curse of Sloth coming up off cooldown more quickly. Did see they have Sunset Wanderers, and they do have a base Geralt, so it's not like they don't have any big cards here. Sunset Wanderers is huge. Wow. Okay. There you have it. That is definitely some big stuff there. So they were able to catch us. They are still going to be one card down in round 3, and we will have double last say. Alright, and we draw into our big cards here. Base Geralt, Triss Butterflies, and Triss Meteor Shower. And so we successfully left the Herbalist in deck. Now we could, we prefer the Herbalist to, say, the Skald. Yeah, and I think we do. We could still make this swap here. Okay, it's Mantlet for armor, which is... Ooh, and they're going to put shield on it as well. Okay, I mean, that's aggressive. I was going to say, we're going to go Longship first. Now, this is basically going to just hard counter the Longship, but Longship normally gives you a little bit of extra value, right? A little bit of extra value, but the downside of it is that it's going to weaken some cards and potentially get them out of range for things like Geralt, or Geralt Professional, harder to say in that case. Let's see. Griffin Witcher, okay. Bit of an engine for them. So, especially since we have double last say here, I think we play this one nice and slow. Don't rush into any of our big cards here. Wait for them to commit things like high base power Geralts, and then we have the obvious targets for us to go after, but unless and until we see those things happen, let's hold off. This is a great target for us to lock with Dorregary, so let's do that. I think we'll probably, well, No, we should load up a melee row if we can. Because we obviously already have this Longship here. We're going to need to play Geralt Professional in that melee row, so if we are anticipating Triss Meteor Shower, we should probably plan around that. On the other hand, Triss Butterflies is going to need to be melee or range row, so, you know, take your pick, I guess. A siege support. That's not going to help that much. And at this point, I think we're just looking at probably Berserker, which is not that effective. In fact, it's actually 1 point weaker than it would normally be in this event. The reason why we have it is that right there. If you do find yourself in need of using a throwaway card in round 1, it gets doomed once it does this transformation, so it will not go into your deck, or rather, not go into your graveyard, so when you use Lippy, it will not go back into your deck. And that means that it is quite useful for avoiding the situation we had before with what was the Herbalist that we didn't want to draw into, or we eventually just put the Skald in there instead of the Herbalist, since Herbalist is a little bit better. So you. We would like to hit you. Do we have enough to destroy or get rid of your armor? Not really. Unfortunately, that extra armor from the Mantlet is proving to be somewhat significant. But maybe for now, let's wait on you. Let's just go Triss Butterflies. We're going to put our last card back, I think. Triss Meteor Shower and bring it back into our hand. So I'm deliberately choosing you, because since we have double Last Say, and this is probably the last card we're going to play, it means we're going to have a very high base power card, the one that they would ideally go after with any tull removal, but since they're never going to have time to react to this card, it's the safest one to put this boost on. Otherwise, you run the risk of putting it on something you're going to play a little bit earlier, and then, you know, if they have other tull removal, which since they've shown us at least one Geralt, they probably do have some additional Geralts in their deck, it's more likely that they will be able to completely negate the boost that we got from Triss Butterflies. Like so. Obviously, Triss Butterflies herself does not have a boost, but okay, we're also, yeah, unfortunately, really looking for something else to happen here. Oh, and, I mean, Curse of Sloth, because our hand was so good, it's not actually going to be all that effective here, because, I mean, sure, we can still get an extra card out of it, but that extra card is not going to be all that significant. So, alright, we might even want to use the Brokvar Warrior just to guarantee that we get someone into Geralt Professional range. So that would mean we'd want to get you down to a 9, probably. I mean, or it could be you. I suppose it could be you. So why don't we... Let's do... First one is 3. Next one is 2. Next one is 1. We'll do that. We'll do this. And get you. Again, it's really not a particularly big deal. But huzzah. Alright, and it's Selkirk. Now that's a card we would like to destroy. It is a 9, so we actually could use Geralt Professional on it. Otherwise, base Geralt works. Although, I mean, the wonderful thing... Oh, where'd they get the... Oh, they got the Zeal from you. Clever. Okay, so, well, now it's not as high priority. I was gonna say, that means we could deliberately wait a little bit, use Geralt of Rivia, base Geralt, to remove this 10-point card, and then if they keep these 2 9s as their highest cards in their melee row, that means we have better value on Igni, and at that point, I'm pretty sure this row will still be big enough for us to Igni it. There's a chance they play something bigger there, but they've already used Geralt Professional at 11, so I'm not really sure they're gonna... I mean, they might have a 10, I guess, but I think we at least give that a shot. You're also 10, obviously, but this just facilitates a better Igni. And there are the Seagulls that, as I said, we wanted to keep in our deck in round 1, so that when we did our Lippy deck flip, they went back into our graveyard, and now that we got our first kill in round 3, they come in and give us 8 free points, which is pretty decent. Pretty decent. Gaunter. Ooh. Okay. That's an interesting one. So on one hand, he bricks Igni. On the other hand, well, he bricks the 18-point Igni. On the other hand, Gaunter is a 10-point body that is going to remove a 10-point body, so he's really worth 20 points, so that is still better for us to go after him. Have they played an Igni yet? They have not, have they? Yeah, so as much as I'd like to start playing all of our big Geralts here in this melee row, I think we do probably play our Igni, but use it in the range row so that we don't walk into a 20-point Igni removal. So, let's do this. Now it's on Sace, he's going to have Zeal, if they put him in the melee row like that. And they're going to put the shield on him, so he can definitely do some big removal. He is, however, on a multiple of 3. So obviously he's not as significant to remove after they've used his order ability, but he is still the biggest card on the board right now. So this is definitely what we're going to want to use Geralt Professional on. And as I was saying, don't want to put too many cards all in the melee row with the same amount of power, but this is okay because you are an 11 and you're a 10, so if they are to Igni with this last card, it's still just 11 points removal, not 20 or 21. And so we are looking at a Triss Meteor Shower melee row, and we actually will play Skald in melee row as well because we don't want to do that discard because we're not going to draw a card. It is Igni, as we expected it might be, so it's going to remove you. And that is going to be enough for them to catch us here, but of course, we still have double last say, as we were saying. So we'll go put the Skald here. And I assume it's still best for us. Yeah, especially with the shields, right? It must be best for us to boost ourselves, not damage them. So here's the Triss. As I said, we put the Triss Meteor Shower, or rather the Triss Butterflies boost on her, because we knew they were not going to have time to react to her. But she was going to be our last card, because she is a huge finisher who will give us the win. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and this could be a bit of a mirror match. Alright, so I think, especially in this encounter, assuming they're going to use Lippy, Squirrel could be unusually, or at least particularly effective. So, we'll hold on to that. In terms of other stuff here, thinking we probably, I mean, you might give us some value, but let's dump you. Let's dump you. Okay, a little bit better. We do not have Lippy, notably. Let's start with the Longship. That looks familiar. We'll probably do the same. And we might even want to go leader ability into Morkvarg as quickly as possible, because that way we make sure we don't accidentally draw into Morkvarg. So I think that's probably what we'll do here, to be honest, right off the bat. Getting rid of the Longship is obviously just pretty solid value. Wasn't going to matter too much on this turn since we're going to have enough armor to tank the hit on the Longship on our side anyway, but so be it. And now they're probably about to do exactly the same thing. Oh no, okay, a little bit different. A little bit different. They actually went for our Longship rather than Morkvarg, which was probably going to be worth more points in the long term. Notably, though, we did see a difference there. They did not go for Morkvarg. They instead went for Crow Mother. And Crow Mother, they can only get out if they're going to use an alchemy card. We do not have any alchemy cards in our deck because we are using Renfri. They are still at 14. They are not Renfri unless they have some extremely creative way to get an alchemy card. Maybe Rune Mage, but outside of that, okay, let's see. We could move you and just make it so that you won't actually hit us for any damage at all, or maybe we just lock since this damage is pretty bad at this point. We could also banish Crow Mother. I don't think they're going to do that immediately, though. So let's hold off a little bit on that. Let's lock you first. That's Roach. No! Ah, they did do it immediately. Ah, darn it. I'm surprised they rushed that much. Wow. Okay, I mean, I really wanted to banish this Crow Mother, but I did not think it was going to be that time sensitive. All right, fair enough. Then, in that case, I mean, you did turn this into a 12, so we could destroy you with Geralt, and if we are planning to build around and play around Lippy, then we want to play really aggressively in round 1. The problem is we don't have Lippy, so we can't really guarantee that that's going to be something we can do. We could even Igni, since they're at 20, right, in that row, and that is what we need to get to the Igni threshold, so maybe we'll do that. Part of me is tempted to remove Crow Mother with base Geralt and then try to follow up immediately thereafter with a Squirrel. I mean, how many alchemy cards do they have? Obviously, she is going to go into their graveyard at the end of this round, so maybe we just wait for that. All right, it's Brokvar Warrior. Obviously, we have one of those as well. And we could even consider using it here if we really wanted to, but I mean, it's a cheap option. If we knew for a fact we were going to have Lippy, we want to play all of our best cards here. playing one of our weaker cards means we're going to shuffle that one back into our deck, and we don't want that to happen because it means we're going to perhaps need to replay it. So we could Skald and get rid of it and see if we get something else. That might even be worth doing. Obviously, it's not worth a ton of points. But we are still in the lead here, and okay. Was hoping that we would see a Lippy here, but obviously it is not so. This is 7 points. Yeah. We'll dump you. There's Best Boy on our side. Oh, what am I saying? We have Triss Butterflies. We should totally be doing that. Why did I not see her before? Okay, then this is Gwent. Yeah, they're absolutely a Lippy deck. And it's Igni. So that's one thing, is that although it is tempting to Squirrel and banish Crow Mother, they're gonna try to recycle all of their Geralts, right? So this probably isn't the highest value card for us to get rid of. Yes, it's 10 points on the body, as are all the Geralts that we see on the board here, but Igni, of course, has a lot more removal potential, and so is probably worth a lot more than Crow Mother is in truth. So let's make this happen, because I totally did not even realize that we had this in hand. So we're going to keep you, but I think we're going to put the Warrior back into our deck, and I mean, Renfri is also tempting. But she does now have Doomed, so we can only play her once, so I think we do stick with Lippy. Take the safe bet here. And it's Witcher Trio. That is something that we used to have in this deck, but I swapped out, because it was at times a little bit awkward with Lippy, especially if you couldn't get them out in round 1, but they did manage to do that. So now, I mean, if we were to... love to be able to Igni this row here for 20, or if we got rid of them, 21 on all the 7s, but, oh, well, no, there's a 9 there anyway. So, and an 8, so that's definitely not happening. But, yeah, now that we have Lippy, we're looking to just play super aggressively here. So I think we Geralt, and then maybe Triss as well. And this might be the card that we banish with Squirrel. I think Igni, I mean, there's something to be said for Gwen, because it'll help enable them to get all their Geralts in the later round, but I think better to guarantee that we get rid of the targets for that Geralt Gwen. It's just Meteor Shower. This looks really familiar, because this is basically a mirror match. We are, of course, planning to do pretty much the same thing here. But I think we take a quick detour here for the moment, and we go and banish this Igni. So I think that is going to be painful for them. Now, they probably are going to pass here, because they have a big lead. Obviously, we can score a lot with Triss Meteor Shower, but we basically just accepted the fact in playing this Squirrel that we are prioritizing removing their carryover over ensuring that we would win round 1, because this plus, well, actually, Whale Harpooner first to move Triss Meteor Shower to this row is what I was thinking we would do if we had time. Then that means they have a lot of high base power cards here that we can hit with this melee row, Triss Meteor Shower. But I think, you know, this alone, I'm pretty sure is not enough to catch them, especially since we have some things that are not that high in base power over here. So yeah, I think we're just passing. And so we're both going to want to play in this round, because we both want to use our Lippies. We really did want to use Triss in that round so we could play her twice, but I guess we just save her and use her once in round 3. So let's get rid of some of our bronzes here. Let's get rid of Seagull and the Warriors. I mean, they're good for 4 provision cost cards, but yeah, we're still hoping for Geralt Professional or Renfri, of course. So are they going just Lippy? If so, then we should still be able to outdo them with our Lippy, but they do not do that. So on one hand, we want to out-tempo them. On the other hand, we know they want to play Lippy in this round, so we know that's not the only card they're going to play. So I think we can still afford to go Longship here. So we're prepared to go for longer rounds. Obviously, we're tying them at the moment, but Martyrim will get Crow Mother back. We suspected that might happen at some point, but we prioritized getting rid of their Igni that they had rather than removing that Crow Mother. If we had more Squirrels, would have been great to move those two, but can't get rid of all of them. So, if we were to go Lippy here, it would also get out Roach and Best Boy immediately, so we would definitely be in the lead. We still know they are very unlikely to pass here, because that would mean that they would not use their Lippy, so that would presumably mean we still can wait a little bit longer. It's a little bit early for the Brokvar Warrior, because they don't have 3 units on the board, but I think this might be the direction we go here. I think, although we do have you in the melee row, we're gonna... Oh, and that was also a very silly card to hit. Should have hit you. Then we get the extra damage on you. It didn't even occur to me that you were already boosted. But yeah, playing you range row, because we're gonna potentially play, or we're definitely gonna play Lippy in the range row here, and obviously this is gonna be a lot bigger than this Longship is. They're Brokvar Warrior, they're probably gonna be smarter with it than I was. But we can, if we want, now use the Herbalist, which also is row locked to the range row. So you were hit for 2, you were also hit for 2. So let's, I guess, prioritize boosting that Longship back up, just because it's potentially going to be better long-term value. And of course, our Lippy has been boosted. Theirs, I don't think has, because we did not see a Triss in the previous round, and we still have our Triss, so that's in part why I'm fine with keeping this pretty close here and actually being behind until we break this out. And now, Whale Harpooner, if we were to use this, we'd be looking at, I mean, doesn't make a huge difference. Actually, we'll put you here, bump you down. Okay, oh, well, fortunately, we forced them into using that on just a 5 base power card. It's not even going to destroy this Longship, because it's 5 damage, and he's currently on 7. So I think now we go Lippy, because we obviously need to make this happen in this round. This is going to be worth a lot of points, and then Triss is our finisher, because they look like, I mean, presumably this is Lippy, right? Unless their deck is totally different from what I thought it was. So now we've taken the lead, because Roach comes out immediately. We unfortunately... Yeah, there's Lippy, okay. Unfortunately, we did not get the chance to use Triss in round 1, so it means we're... I mean, we are obviously going to use her here, and that's going to be the key difference maker, making sure that we win round 2. Actually not 100% sure if it's better to hit there. I think it is better to hit their range row than it is to boost our range row, to tell you the truth. We have one more card in here. That's a 4, that's a 4, that's also 4 base power. We only have a 1-11 and 1-9 are both big, but they have an 11 here, a 9 there, and then also this 11 and this 4. So I think that still adds up to a little bit more. Either way, I think this should be sufficient, especially given how Triss has very high base power. There's Best Boy as well. So we'll take the round 2 win. Okay, and we draw into Igni, which in a short round like this could be quite tricky to make that work. Not a big fan of the Herbalist. Base Geralt, probably much better. Longship in a short round, also not great, but if we're looking at our other cards here, it's not gonna get much better. Might get a small improvement with Dorregary. That's roughly the same amount of points. Triss Butterflies would probably use to just replay one of these here. So we might just settle for this and keep it safe here. I am concerned about Igni, though. We'll definitely play you first. Especially because we're going to be forced into using one of these on our next turn. And if they're smart... Oh, well, don't do that. Well, don't do that. Because you just made this... the Longship. Actually, making this less effective. This was about to be a 31-point Igni. It is now, what, a 24-point Igni instead? I suppose we'll settle for it. But I actually wish that didn't get a kill. And we get both of our Seagulls out as well, which is actually pretty decent bonus value. I was going to say we didn't get our Geralt Professional in round 1, which meant we have slightly worse cards here, or at least not the absolutely ideal cards in this round. And if they have Triss, there aren't that many units for them to use this on. We will obviously proceed to destroy Triss. And now... Geralt? Do they have did we see them use base Geralts? No, it's Marjoram. That will get Crow Mother out, but that is not enough, so we will hold on for the win. So there's a look at the Skellige Lippy Blaze of Glory deck for the new Power Shift seasonal event. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.